All right, folks, welcome to another live stream. Week 5 is here, and the chaos has already begun. Look, if the Chicago Bears win a game, and I see Jadis is in the chat already talking about it. If the Chicago Bears win a game, you know it's going to be a wild week. So let's gear up for it. Let's go after it. Welcome to Armchair Fantasy Football. If it's your first time here, feel free to comment any fantasy-related questions you may have. And if you are satisfied with your service, like and subscribe to support the channel as well. Typically late in the week, I'm strictly doing injury reports, but I thought we'd mix it up a little bit and cover one of the most under-the-radar and streamable positions out there, the defense. We will get into our injury updates first and foremost, and then I'll be diving into a full rankings video, 1 to 32, rest of season on the defenses while checking any fantasy football related questions that you may have. So again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, get set for these rankings. But first, some injury updates. Cooper Kupp is back, and he's not just back, he's looking comfortable in practice, and according to head coach Sean McVay, should play with no limitations this week against Philly. That's pretty shocking considering a little over a month and a half ago, this guy was seeing a specialist about his hamstring, and we genuinely didn't know what was wrong with it, which is pretty scary for somebody with the injury history of Cooper Kupp. But here we are, just 2 years removed from his all-time season in 2021. Somebody who commanded the highest target share of anybody that year at 31% is back in the Rams wide receiver room. Obviously, Puka Nacua is on a ridiculous pace, 501 receiving yards. He leads the entire NFL in receptions and is up there in targets. We will see a decline in volume for Puka. It's more of a matter of how much and not if, as Cooper Kupp is going to command some volume. Kyren Williams is questionable against the Philadelphia Eagles. Williams obviously in that same game, his status is up in the air against the Eagles. I was harping on he and Brian Robinson, maybe a bit over, I was calling them a bit overrated because of the amount of volume and touchdowns that they were relying on to be where they are in the current fantasy rankings from a points per game perspective. But points are points, and Kyren Williams hasn't done anything to lose the job. Ronnie Rivers is behind Williams in the depth chart. Literally all that we have to go off of for him is his 9 rushes for 47 yards last week. If you're in a pinch, opportunity is opportunity, especially in deeper leagues, and he's only owned in about 5% of leagues. Jonathan Taylor is questionable against Tennessee, somebody else who is on the physically unable to perform list, out for at least the first 4 weeks. Well, it's been 4. Unfortunately for him, he's going up against a Tennessee defense. If he does play, it's allowing less than 3 yards per carry, the lowest rate in the NFL. It would mitigate Zach Moss's role as well, so if you didn't sell high on him now, maybe you got 1 more week to do it. If he does well and Jonathan Taylor plays a limited role, really hard to tell. Derek Carr is questionable against New England after going check down galore with Alvin Kamara last week. Ramondre Stevenson is questionable with a thigh injury against New Orleans. So on the other side of the coin in that matchup, already talks of Ezekiel Elliott getting more touches heading into last week. The Cowboys won via blowout for the 3rd time this year, and that was thrown out the window. Obviously, they had to go throw heavy. Amon-Ra St. Brown, doubtful against Carolina, and his teammates Josh Reynolds, Jameson Williams, and Jahmyr Gibbs, all questionable against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina has a relatively stingy secondary, but they also just don't give up a lot of passing yards because some teams have gotten up on them and gone run heavy, which is what usually happens in these situations. And last but not least, T. Higgins is questionable against Arizona. The offense of Cincy, already poor enough, but now we have more and more injury news. Not only is it Joe Burrow, but it's T. Higgins. Ja'Marr Chase owners, you're probably going through it right now. Lots of opportunity for him, but it's not the same high-flying offense that we saw before. They're scoring about 15 points a game. Let's get into these defense rankings. This should be fun. I've got little notes for each team. Nothing crazy, but we will get into it. I have to clear this screen real quick, so give me about 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, we should be good. Jade is saying, I'm shocked that the Bears managed to put up 40 points. You and me both, man. You and me both. Rest of season rankings. Here we go. On the defensive end, who's going to be first? Jadis, I know you're an Eagles fan. You might not like this, but we are going to have to go with our friends over in Dallas, the Cowboys. Turnovers galore. Elite pass rush led by Micah Parsons. Less than 11 points per game allowed through 4 weeks. Pretty tough in terms of who they're facing in their division. At least I was thinking that coming into the year, but now the Giants look horrible. Horrible. They've got the Eagles. That's going to be a toe-to-toe matchup both times that these guys face off. And Washington just lost to the Bears. So I think the strength of schedule really only gets better for this team. We've got to go Cowboys at 1. At 2, Oh, this is going to annoy me. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Completely messed up my screen. Hang with me. Hang with me. Ooh, okay. What did I just do? All right, we're good. At number 2, we are going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think this one's too hard of a decision to make to go top 2, 1 and 2, Cowboys and 49ers. I mean, these two teams up there in production pretty much on all fronts. The 49ers extremely stingy in their front 7. We talk about stingy on all fronts, really. Their secondary has been nasty. They're a run-heavy team. They eat up that time of possession. It's a team I love overall. Fred Warner might be the best linebacker in general in the entire league. Obviously, some other names up there to compete with them, but lots to like there. For number 3, it gets a little more debatable, but we'll go with the Bills. The Bills, well, they do get to play against the Patriots and the Jets 4 times this season, which, going into the year, especially after the first game of the season for the Patriots, looked like maybe it'd be a bit of a taller task. Mac Jones throwing the ball over 50 times, but he's not able to throw it down the field a whole lot, at least with efficiency. When we talk about a yards per attempt perspective, Mac Jones not up there right now. Offense looks honestly horrible, and I don't really have to explain the Jets and Zach Wilson. Great week against the Chiefs and an impressive defense. We'll see if he can keep it up, but I'm going off of long-term numbers here. Yeah, no, I don't believe in Zach Wilson a whole lot. I'm going to be honest with you. I really am. Behind them, let's go with the loading arrow. Let's go with the Ravens. The Ravens are the most run-heavy team in the entire league. They run the ball 55% of the time. That's more and more clock chewing. We talk about teams taking up time of possession. They're allowing just 170 passing yards per game. They are missing Marlon Humphrey. He might be back this week. That's another injury update I didn't have, but it's not really related to fantasy unless you look at defenses, which we are, so I guess I should have brought it up. Phenomenal team top to bottom, chewing up the clock, great secondary, strong all over, and behind them, it's their AFC North rivals. I guess they're all rivals in the Cleveland Browns. Through the first 3 weeks, the Browns allowed just 1 touchdown on defense, I should say. There was some productivity on the other end and some wild stuff happening, but greatest time of possession margin on offense. They've had the ball an average of over 34 minutes per game. Really like the Browns here. We'll go to the Eagles up next. This is Jadis' team. They are in 6th. Bruised up secondary through the first couple of weeks. Honestly, that's why they've been in shootouts for the most part. I would say that's partially why the Commanders just a week ago were able to keep up with them. And the NFL is just weird. Then the Commanders go and lose to the Bears, right? Darius Slay is one of the best corners in football. Reed Blankenship is a safety you really don't realize you have until he's gone. And when this secondary gets thin, it gets pretty ugly for the Eagles. Behind them, a team that honestly, defense was a pretty big worry for not too long ago in the Kansas City Chiefs. This is now a much improved secondary. They can win on defense for once. They don't have to rely on these shootouts to win 40-37. They've only allowed 190 passing yards per game. That is the 8th lowest mark. See if we've got any questions. Just Jadis shocked about my Bears. No shocker at all. But the New York Jets are going to start us off here in the B tier. I mean, big fan of the Jets in general, considering that you kind of got to root for a team that has some crappy luck at quarterback now with Aaron Rodgers going down in his first drive with the team. They've got Sauce Gardner in the secondary. He's put in a spot where, this defense is going to have to win some games. We did see them do it against the Bills in week 1. I think it'll be a fun story to root for. And, the Jets the last few years have been pretty well off on defense. Behind them, we're going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Antoine Winfield, the front 7 is elite. I mean, you've got Devin White, you've got Vita Vea, you've got Levante David. Lots to like there. Behind them, this is tough. I mean, this team I would definitely not consider decent, even, in the defensive category over the course of the last few years. If you want to go all the way back to the 28-3 lead that they dropped, you can go there. Secondary has been a focal point of struggle, but it really isn't so far this year, allowing less than 200 passing yards per game. They're a run-heavy team behind Bijan Robinson. Occasionally, Desmond Ridder and Tyler Algier as well. They're chewing up the clock. I like them a lot. Behind them, dare I say it, we're going to go with the Packers. Some people may say this is a bit of a lower rating, but they're bruised up. I mean, Devondre Campbell going down among other things. Even on offense, they're bruised up. You could argue that they're not holding on to the ball a whole lot because Oh my goodness. Maybe David Bakhtiari being out and Christian Watson being out and Aaron Jones being out isn't the best thing in the world. So we got Alex in here. I know it's a poor strategy, but I always stream defense and special teams. Alex, I really don't think it is. I mean, if you have a team going up against this Giants offense right now, if you have a team going up against, like the Texans offense from last year, you made out well. I mean, sometimes you've got to take those plays. Sometimes you're going to be in line for a shootout when you're going up against an offense like the Bills, like the Chiefs, right? Like the Texans this year. You've got to take the weaker matchups. I think it's fine. I would chase points on the defensive front for the most part. I am pretty matchup based. It varies for sure. It does. But I can't complain too much about it. I mean, I think that's just something you got to be able to do. I think it's smart to do it. Oh my. Give me 1 second, folks. We are losing. We are losing our browser window. I'm just going to do this live. Bear with me here. What is going on? Figure you probably want to see the top things, right? There we go. Edelmar's in here. Edelmar, how are you doing, man? Let's just go to this one. That's probably why it's wrong. Little technical difficulties. Thank you, folks, for sticking with me here. We will resume the video momentarily. Kind of playing with this format a little bit, and I'm not going to touch it anymore. Okay, not going to touch it anymore. We've got the Packers in at 11. Good to see you, Edelmar. Good to see you, Alex. I agree with your strategy. I am a firm believer of it unless you have, maybe these top couple of teams in the Cowboys, 49ers, or Bills, or maybe Ravens. Even Browns, going the first couple of weeks without Eagles as well. Really, any of the top teams. We'll just say that. Anybody in this top tier, I'm okay with sticking through and through unless they've got some interesting matchups once in a while. But no, completely fine with streaming defenses. I don't think it's a bad strategy at all. Behind the Packers, we're going to go with another team that really got stepped on last year in the Detroit Lions. Much improved defense on all fronts. Obviously, Okudah didn't pan out or isn't panning out as much as this team wanted to in the long run, but Hutchinson helps a lot on the pressuring end of things. We really saw it against Green Bay, who again was bruised up, but health, youth, and overall just effectiveness, guys swarming in. I mean, I'm kind of okay with it. I'm okay with the Lions here at number 12. Edelmar saying, doing good, always speaking with no stutters. Got to love that quality. Yes, sir. Edelmar, loving the content you're putting out for sure, too. Thanks for the love, man. Pittsburgh Steelers at number 13. Front seven's led by TJ Watt. If I can find the logo, there we go. Plenty of pressure. Is a guy who's usually flirting with around 16 to 18 sacks in a year if he's healthy. The offense doesn't give the defense much time to rest. Third worst time of possession in the entire league on offense at 26 minutes and 9 seconds. Not something to really be excited about at all, honestly. Otherwise, I would definitely have the Steelers somewhere maybe in here. Maybe they'd sneak into the 8th here ahead of the Chiefs. But because the offense is so god-awful and the defense has really no time to rest, not a big fan of the Steelers here. We'll go Texans next, a team that really deserves a lot more respect than they're getting in general. And we'll actually start the C tier off with them. They're not doing phenomenal, but stood up against Jacksonville a couple of weeks ago, their division rivals, and got the win largely because of the defense. Obviously, C.J. Stroud balling out is helping. Some investment in getting Stingley a couple of years ago. Really a young squad. It was Lovie Smith, leading the defense not too long ago. They've had a lot of personnel over there, but for the most part, I think the Texans are holding it together well. Honestly, could shock some people and get 7-8. I don't want to say 9 wins, but could be in that range for sure. Behind them, we are going to go with the Seahawks. And again, folks, any fantasy football related questions you have at all, please feel free to pop them in the comment section below. We're just running over some rest of season defense rankings. Any injury updates you're looking for, those are in the ticker. How are the Jets that high? I need to chat about that one, not going to lie. Jets have a phenomenal secondary, man. I mean, Edelmar, the Jets don't look great on paper, but when you look at the fact that Zach Wilson did nothing in week 1 and they still went out and beat Josh Allen despite the fact that Aaron Rodgers played in a handful of snaps, and then it was not only tossed over to Zach Wilson, but it was tossed over to Zach Wilson with literally no preparation. It wasn't like they were preparing a playbook catered for Wilson like they've been able to do over the course of the last few weeks, and ultimately why he's been able to be more effective. He got thrown in, and somehow they still beat, honestly, a Super Bowl contender in the Bills. Jade is saying low-scoring game and high-scoring game. I got to say, Eagles-Rams will be high-scoring, and low-scoring is probably going to be Cowboys-49ers. It's going to be a defensive game. I mean, if you go by my rankings, you got the top two teams going against each other. So I would definitely agree with that one, Jadis. We will keep trudging along behind the Seahawks, right in the middle here at number 16. We're going to go with the New England Patriots. Stingy front seven led by Matthew Judon. Supposed to get J.C. Jackson back. There's some off-the-field troubles being sorted with right now. Behind them, one of the most underrated defenses in the league, starting to fall back to this mid-tier. Cam Jordan, extremely underrated. The secondary definitely has some holes in it. Behind them, we're going to go Jacksonville, who honestly, I was going to say, was fringe top 10. That's fair. Zach is getting better week by week. And yeah, I mean, Edelmar, not only Zach Wilson getting better week by week, but you've got a defense that's keeping him in the game. He doesn't have to go out there and put up 35, 40 points to win a game. He didn't have to do literally anything against the Bills. The Jets picked off Josh Allen 3 times, and Josh Allen throwing into double and triple coverage is not helping his case by any means. But the fact that Zach Wilson was thwarted in week 1 on 0 notice, he maybe got a few minutes to prepare while Aaron Rodgers is feeling his Achilles, realizing it popped and his season's done, although he claims he'll be back. Zach Wilson got thwarted in. It was a run-heavy scheme. He really wasn't doing a whole lot, and still, the defense showed up when it matters most. Chiefs-Vikings high-scoring game. I could see that, Jadis. I definitely could. Number 19 is going to be the Tennessee Titans, if I can put them in the right spot. 2.9 yards per carry allowed, folks. That is a league best. Relatively vulnerable secondary going into last week. Again, it's over the course of a pretty small sample size. They were allowing 275 passing yards per game. It went down a ton because A, Joe Burrow's hurt, and B, they were bull rushing him. They were bull rushing somebody with a pretty nagging and irritating and agitating calf injury. So, strategic to say the very least. I still don't think their secondary is the best, but they are stuffing the run. And if Jonathan Taylor plays, this could be an interesting matchup for sure. How is he going to do in his game back? How much will he play? And right behind the Titans, speaking of the devil, we'll have the Colts at number 20. 3.8 yards per carry allowed, 10th best. Obviously, Darius Leonard, the strength of this defense. Had a better secondary a couple of years ago, kind of rebuilding. But for the most part, just kind of in the middle. I would not go out of my way to get a team like the Colts unless, if we're talking about last year, they're facing the Texans. Now everybody in that division, with the exception of the Titans, pretty competitive on offense. I think as Derrick Henry gets older and older day by day, it's going to be tough, especially when you've got an older wide receiving core led by DeAndre Hopkins. The rest is honestly pretty inexperienced. Treylon Burks, one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL who just cannot stay healthy, but that's for a different day. We've got the Bengals at number 21. They lost Jesse Bates. They lost Von Bell. So the back end of their defense, they are completely susceptible to getting blown over the top. We haven't seen it too much so far. They are allowing 23.5 points per contest. The youth in the secondary just needs to get some experience. Offense needs to keep the defense off the field. And again, this all starts with that Joe Burrow injury. It's honestly crazy, right? The chain reaction you get from an offense when their quarterback is just playing hurt. All of a sudden, the wide receiver's obviously not going to do too well. There's more pressure on guys like Joe Mixon because they're not going to throw the ball as much. And in turn, on the defensive side, guess what? This defense is jogging back out onto the field every 5 minutes. Twag says, do you have any cheat codes for prize picks? I'm not consistent at all, but I got to remind myself it is betting at the end of the day with unpredictable football play. Any tips? I mean, in general, Edomar, if you can find a running back one on a winning football team, I'm probably hitting the over on rushing yards. For example, if a team is favored by 4, 5, 6 points in betting lines, just open up your good old ESPN app, right? See if somebody's -6. I'm probably taking the running back one over. If A, they don't have any competition, so I'm not talking like a Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott situation. We need James Conner, right? But I also need that team to win. I need to have a lot of reasons to think that team is going to win this mismatch, right? I need to know this guy is going to get a lot of touches down the stretch because this team is more likely than not going to be chewing down the clock and as a result, running the ball. That's what I'm playing with. You could go the wide receiver one route on a losing team. You could go out and say, I'm just going to make something up here. You could go out and say, if Amon-Ra St. Brown was healthy, right? Or let's say George Pickens. I think the Steelers are going to lose this week. I think they're going to be working from behind a lot. I think as a result, Kenny Pickett's going to be throwing the ball a lot. Maybe we go George Pickens. With that being said, I also want to stay away from poor offenses, and I would distinguish the Steelers as such. If we think it's a heavyweight matchup, right, and all of a sudden maybe the Eagles are going to be down to somebody, or the Ravens are going to be down to somebody. Maybe we take Zay Flowers over on receiving yards. I'm taking main wide receivers, main pass catchers. Maybe it's the tight end like a Travis Kelce situation or TJ Hawkinson. I'm taking them in games that they're expected to lose in, and I'm taking running back ones who don't have a whole lot of a whole lot of, I would say, how would I explain this? Not a whole lot of competition. I would take running backs on winning teams that don't have a lot of competition. The volume's going to be there. If they're up, they're going to try and chew the clock. That's kind of my rule of thumb, Edelmar. It's tough to gauge, right, with betting at all. I'm going to try and get a promo code to get some of you a deposit matched. If you do want to get into this stuff, don't go nuts. Take it easy at first. Betting, gambling addiction is serious, but if you want to have a little fun, we can go that route as well. After the Bengals, we've got the New York Giants. Offense is god-awful. And again, we talk about that chain reaction. If they're not resting the defense, if they're not allowing the defense to catch a breather, no bueno. And that's kind of what we're seeing. Defense is no better. They're allowing 30.5 points per game. I should have them lower, but they looked pretty solid last year. Small sample size. Kept most of the personnel around. We'll go Miami Dolphins next. They could be lower as well. Vic Fangio is their defensive coordinator, so I'm holding out hope. Obviously, some investment in the secondary, going out and getting Jalen Ramsey. Behind them, we're going to go with the Carolina Panthers. I think this is an interesting take to put them only at 25, all things considered. But when you have a team that's losing, and in my opinion is blowout prone, considering Bryce Young looks like he has a long way to go. This offense is very hard to watch. All of a sudden, if a team goes up 21-3, that's pretty ideal, pretty specific, but maybe they don't go as hard on them. Also, we've got a team that does have a pretty good secondary led by J.C. Horn, their number one corner. That's my take on that. Behind the Panthers, we're going to go with the Arizona Cardinals, a team that would be doing a lot better if their defense could hold up their end of the bargain. I mean, Joshua Dobbs has looked fine filling in for Kyler Murray. Hollywood Brown has looked like a top 15, top 20 for sure wide receiver. But 25.5 points per game allowed. Budda Baker being down hurts as well. There's not a whole lot of reinforcements on the back end. Los Angeles Chargers are up next. 300 passing yards on the nose allowed per game. Pretty ugly stuff. Going to be transparent with you. When you have a secondary and even a defense in general that has a lot of money invested in it, we had the fun Khalil Mack game not too long ago where he had 6 sacks. That's fine. But if you're giving up a lot of yards through the air and then touchdowns as a result of it, you're going to lose points pretty quickly. Behind them, another AFC West team. If you notice, this is a theme. Who would have thought the Chiefs far and away would be the best defense in the AFC West? But I do firmly believe it right now. Yes, there's Max Crosby. That's about it. They are bottom 10. The Raiders are in points per game allowed at 25.3. Tough division. You've got to go up against Patrick Mahomes twice a year. MVP, 2-time Super Bowl champ. Justin Herbert honestly could throw for 5,000. Is the QB1 in fantasy football right now. And Russell Wilson, everyone wants to talk about letting Russ cook and, making a meme out of him. And yes, they are 1-3 and almost lost to the Bears. But Russell Wilson has 9 passing touchdowns to 2 picks. I think he does fine against the Raiders. He was doing very well for himself in divisional games last year. After them, we have the Chicago Bears, gutted from the last couple of years, losing guys like Khalil Mack, Danny Trevathan, Leonard Floyd, and last but not least, Roquan Smith, right? Jalen Johnson, the cornerback one, has been out the last couple of weeks, as has Eddie Jackson, their Pro Bowl safety from a few years ago. I think once they get those guys back, maybe they can rise to low 20s, but this team is young. You've got Jack Sanborn getting reps out there out of Wisconsin. Tough position to be in. Great game against the Commanders, all things considered. Forced a turnover. Forced a couple. They got a fumble as well. And picked off Sam Howell once. But still, obviously, a long way to go. Next, these teams are not good. These guys should honestly be right over here. I think I skipped the Rams. We'll put him about 24, 25-ish. Aaron Donald's obviously a beast. Secondary could be better. They are also bruised up, but not much competition. Yes, the Seahawks look fine. The 49ers are obviously dominant, but then you have the Cardinals in your division. So somewhat weak opposition, I would argue. Next, we will go... Oh, they have two of the same logo in here. Okay. All right. That threw me off. Next, we'll go with the Vikings. Absolutely atrocious. This team could be undefeated if they had an average defense, I would argue. You've got the best receiver in the game. You've got a fringe top 10 serviceable quarterback in Kirk Cousins. But this team consistently has to get in shootouts and usually loses them. It's not a team that you want defense to be out on the field for the final drive of the game. There's more banged-up defenses out there performing around the same level. This team is allowing 23.8 points per contest. Middle pack, but pretty healthy. A hot take for the Dolphins in the deets here. Yeah, absolutely, man. They're still getting up a lot through the secondary. High investment in Jalen Ramsey, but when you win 70-20, the defense doesn't have to do much at that point, right? We will go Commanders at number 31. There's potential up front, obviously, with Chase Young and Montez Sweat, but it's a young secondary. I mean, Justin Fields just cut this team up. And speaking of teams that Justin Fields cut up, we're going to go with a team that the week before allowed 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. Career day for Fields, pretty much. 37.5 points per game allowed. And I end with this. Goodbye, Vance Joseph. I don't think Vance Joseph is going to be around much longer. They went through with Vic Fangio, and at least when the offense was not producing, the defense was there holding up somewhat. All right, we got Alex saying, I know you're doing a defense and special teams rankings, but could you go into a Raheem Mostert versus Devon Achane comparison? Started Mostert over Achane, and yeah, I lost. Oh, can I go into a Raheem Mostert, Devon Achane comparison? Alex, I definitely can. I'm sorry that happened to you, my friend. I think that, obviously, hindsight, a week ago, Raheem Mostert was a huge sell. I was saying after week 2, he was a big sell. Looks like we were a week early. As week 3, he exploded for 4 touchdowns. But we saw it right there. So did Devon Achane. And we'll open up another tab here. In all honesty, Devon Achane has a lot going for him, and I would not doubt if this is solely his backfield pretty dang soon. Okay, we've got a few things going on here, and I will pop some of them up. And I'll give you the full breakdown, Alex. Thanks for asking that question. This is just pretty much a Q&A session now, so if you were here for the defense, that's fine, but we will now go through any possible questions that you have. And I'm going to go back out here on full screen. All right, so... Just a moment. All right. Players are randomly exploding like Mostert and DJ Moore. what WTF type of football? Yeah, I mean, weird stuff's happening for sure. Cannot deny that one. Let's go in here. Get rid of a couple of these windows. OBS is my best friend today. Holy cow. Honestly, not OBS's fault. I just got to learn how to use it. But, okay. There I am in the corner. We start with this game. 70-20. Pretty fun. A lot would argue that Raheem Mostert did nothing wrong. 13 rushes for 82 yards, 6.3 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 7 receptions for 60 yards, a touchdown as well, 4 total touchdowns, efficient on the ground, the second most involved pass catcher out of the 28 targets. Mostert had 25% of them at 7. What did he do wrong? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Raheem Mostert did nothing wrong. it's one of those, it's not you, but it kind of is you situation. You're doing well, but historically, Raheem Mostert, not only being outperformed, it's almost like it's not you, it's the other guy, but he's being outperformed by somebody who's way younger. And by way younger, I mean 21 years old. The guy's 6 months younger than me. Raheem Mostert is a whole decade older. And this might not be a huge deal if we're talking about a quarterback. Honestly, you get more seasoned vets under center. It's probably better to be 31 than 21, I would argue, historically. Wide receivers, you're pushing it. You've got guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen. You're starting to see them peak over. Running backs, it's nuts. Especially in this day and age where we have 30-year-old running backs who really never had that complimentary piece next to them. But with Raheem Mostert, it's interesting. So I start you with this. All right, Alex. Devon Achane, way more efficient. 18 carries for 203 yards. Had more touches. 4 for 30. A pair of touchdowns. He did just as good. It's 70 points. We think, okay, what does that mean, right? Obviously, the game was out of hand. But they saw something out of a running back who's 10 years younger. And really quick, Aura is in here. Hey there, should I stash Rashee Rice since now he has 5 good matchups coming up? Want to be ahead in waiver wires? I would. Rashee Rice has the second most targets on the team right now, Aura, behind, of course, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. So I think we do that. I think that's a good move. Back to Alex's question here. He got outperformed. It's a blowout, but the Dolphins were able to see something here in someone who is 10 years younger than Raheem Mostert at a position where age really matters. Your prime is probably 24, 25, 26, 27 years old. Second, historically, fantasy-wise in general, this is why I was a seller on Raheem Mostert as soon as he had a multi-touchdown game in week 2. Raheem Mostert is injury-prone, folks. At first, I thought it was the San Francisco curse. We go through here. It's obviously limited playing time in general. He didn't touch the ball until 2016. But here we go. He's got a decent role now. Not the whole season. Whole season. There's one. First time after he debuted in 2015. So just in terms of a team getting a lot of or a guy getting opportunity, he didn't get it until 2019. Injured immediately. Whole season. Looked nice. Really efficient historically. Imagine if we got 5.4 yards per carry out of somebody for a full season and he got an appropriate amount of touches. This man gets 200 touches. He's easily over 1,000 yards. And that's not asking a lot. Decent pass catching involvement, again, when he's out there. But we have a guy since 2015, Alex, who has been out there for an entire season twice. 2 times. I actually didn't know he started with the Dolphins. That's a pretty fun fact. So, all right, let's start to collect this. Devon Achane's 10 years younger at the running back position where age definitely matters. Devon Achane is more effective here. And obviously here, got more touches. But only 8 carries, yet he cleared 100 yards. We have an injury-prone running back. And I don't know if you heard the rumor that Miami likes guys with speed. Devon Achane has a track and field background. Yeah. On Texas A&M's all-time top 12 performer list, you've got a guy who's got the number 3 time in the 60-meter, number 4 time in the outdoor 200, number 9 time in the outdoor 100, 10.14. I mean, this guy doesn't just run. In track, he's one of the best to ever do it at Texas A&M, and he also happens to play football. I believe I saw an article. Secret, this is perfect. There are a lot of track stars, right? There's Trey Waynes out there. I mean, there's a ton of track stars, even at the running back position, who will just sprint into tackles. Aura says, hey, thanks. Yeah, no problem. Devon Achane, according to scouts, he's got maturity. You don't see that a lot out of top-tier track athletes. Runs between the tackles very well. Tremendous patience. When he sees his opening, that's when the acceleration goes. A lot of track guys, if you watch, they're running fast all the time. With football, the rhythm of the block, the tempo's not there. Devon is the opposite. Track backfield, fits the profile of these Dolphins players and what they want. 10 years younger than Raheem Mostert, and just flat out more effective. Achane had one more carry than Mostert, but he had 92 more yards. And this is a pretty pass-heavy team in general. They are going to start leaning on the run a little bit more now that they have a beast up there like a Devon Achane. But if we look from our friends at Fantasy Pros, I mean, this is somebody who essentially has played in 2 games, right? For yards after contact, he's already cracked the top 10. Devon Achane is here at, he's at number 11. Yards after contact per attempt, second best mark in the entire league. Do we really count Chris Brooks with 9 rushes? I don't know. It is still early in the season. Broken tackles, he's got 4 already, up there in the ranks. We look over here. 11.4 yards per carry. And we can only play the small sample size card for so long. He's the RB3. And probably my favorite stat, 7.3 yards before contact. There's that track patience, that track poise, that track speed, and blistering speed. On average, this guy is going 7.3 yards before he's being touched. This is a scary good prospect profile. And if you were able to nab Devon Achane ahead of a couple of weeks ago, you're in for it. Again, small sample size early in the season, but Devon Achane is averaging more yards before he is touched the first time, before contact, than 99.9% of leagues, or 99.9% of running backs in the league are averaging per attempt. 7.3 yards before he's even touched, and we tack on an extra 4.2 after contact. 7.3 yards per attempt overall. Chris Brooks, Austin Eckler tie it, and Devon Achane. I'm not going to sit here and call him a generational talent. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he finishes as the RB1 or 2. I'm just simply stating the facts that we have somebody with so much freaking upside. A track background for a team that focuses on speed, and a record breaker at that. Somebody who got his touches relatively quickly and outdid his competition by 92 yards on one more touch on the ground. Somebody who's 10 years younger than his competition at a position where guys are retired around this age. I would maybe get out while you can in terms of Raheem Mostert. Obviously, phenomenal start to the season. Maybe you can still build off those recent performances. But I do think the secret's out. I don't think we can lie to ourselves there and say that with confidence, Raheem Mostert holds a lot of value. And it sucks because when you have somebody with these numbers, it should hold a lot of value. But when you have somebody with 21 less rushes, he's carried the ball literally half the time that Raheem Mostert has. And he already has 60 more rushing yards than him. He's got 4 big plays, meaning rushes for 20 or more yards, out of the 7 that the entire team has. 4 touchdowns already. He's played in 3 games. He's really played in 2. That's your Devon Achane versus Raheem Mostert comparison, Alex. We've got someone younger. We've got someone more efficient. We've got someone on the other end who's really injury-prone in Raheem Mostert. That's what we've got right now. And because of the performances we've seen in the last 2 weeks, we are seeing Devon Achane's value skyrocket, and we're seeing Raheem Mostert's drop out quickly. Brian says, I swear I'm overthinking each week. Currently 1-3, hopefully turning 2-3 by this weekend. I have a ton of running back depth, but I'm always split on who to play each week. Yep, Brian, let me know who the running back options are, and we'll break them down for you, man. P.S. You won this past week in our league again. Brian, I also was the highest scorer in the league. Again, with a team that I drafted all backups in. I can't say I predicted this was going to happen. I was honestly shooting for 1 win in September. So pretty cool stuff. And I did get one win in September, but win number 2 coming last week, 157. We had a pretty good day. Just quickly finishing up on this De'Von Achane thing. Over 300 rushing yards. For somebody who has played 3 games, but again, he's really played 2. All right, this counts. This counts right here. 10% of snaps, 1 touch on the ground for 5 yards, 1 touch through the air for 4 yards. In these 2 games, De'Von Achane has become the running back 3, the number 20 overall. He has over 300 yards. He has 6 touchdowns overall, 4 on the ground, 2 through the air. He's averaging 11.4 yards per carry. He's averaging 7.3 yards before contact, while everybody else is averaging that or less in terms of yards per attempt. This is nuts. Things will flatten out. Law of large numbers is going to take over. He's going to regress towards the mean. I understand that. But there are guys in the NFL who will never see this type of production in 1 game. De'Von Achane's done it in 2. He's done it in 2 in a row. And his competition, again, it's not that hard of a decision, folks. He's 10 years older than him. His competition has played in 69 games over the course of the last nearly decade. His competition has played in 2 full seasons. His competition is washed up, is going to be washed up. You could argue this man has relatively fresh legs. Raheem Mostert has played in barely over, what would that be, 4 full seasons? But good luck. This guy fits the Dolphins' profile, extremely fast, phenomenal scouting report. 6 statistics like this. Hard to tackle. And the running back 3 after playing in basically 2 games. And if we really want to be stingy, because there are guys out there like Brian Robinson Jr. and Kyren Williams playing in nearly all snaps, he's really played 1 game. He's played in 100% of snaps for the average NFL game. It's nuts. It is crazy, I will say. So, folks, just wanted to do that quick, I would say it was relatively quick defensive rankings video. Again, I'm going to go over the injury updates we've got for you. Again, Cooper Kupp is back against Philadelphia. Not only is Kupp back, he's looking to play with no limitations this week against Philly. Just 2 years removed from his all-time season in 2021. We've got Kyren Williams questionable against that same Eagles team. Status is up in the air right now. We do have Ronnie Rivers sitting behind him for those of you in a dynasty league looking for a more deep play. I believe Ronnie Rivers is owned in about 5% of leagues. I've been looking across all platforms. It's going up. Okay, so 9. You're likely going to be able to get him. Super small sample size. Not a lot is guaranteed, except what is guaranteed is if Kyren Williams doesn't play, you have yourself a plug-in running back 1, and he's available across 90% of leagues right now. So that's good news there. Jonathan Taylor questionable this week against Tennessee. Tennessee allows less than 3 yards per carry, 2.9 to be exact. Lowest rate in the NFL. Derek Carr, questionable against New England. Looked horrible last week. Was very check down oriented. So maybe if Derek Carr is in, you're buying the crap out of Alvin Kamara after that week. Ramondre Stevenson, questionable with a thigh injury against New Orleans. There were already talks of Zeke getting more touches heading into last week. The Cowboys had other plans, winning that game 38-3, but there's an opportunity for Zeke this week, especially with, even if he plays, a bruised up Ramondre Stevenson. Amon-Ra St. Brown, doubtful against the Carolina Panthers. Josh Reynolds, Jameson Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, all questionable against the Carolina Panthers. Carolina, relatively stingy secondary led by J.C. Horn, but they don't allow a lot of passing yards because some teams have gotten up on them and have gone run heavy. Usually what happens in those situations, T. Higgins questionable against Arizona. Folks, I think I'm going to close it there. Brian, I see you had a question, so feel free to comment on any video, including this one, with the running back situation, and we will get you to 2 and 3 and do our very best to put the best information possible in front of you, my friends, so you can out-research your fantasy opponents, even if it's me in our league, right? You did beat me earlier this year, so you got that covered. But folks, thank you for joining as always. Feel free to drop any questions I was unable to answer in the comments section below. Like and subscribe if this live stream helped you out. And we will see you in the next stream. Have a wonderful night, everybody.